Hello and welcome to PM Express. My name is Nana Ansakwa and I'm here at the Parliament House. To my right is a dilapidated fountain which is not working. And to my left is about 50 stairs with no disabled access. If I'd come here with a wheelchair, I probably would have to go around the back. Is it not disappointing that we shout up and down every day for the rights of the disabled people, and the very people who are supposed to make the laws to make this work, they don't even have an access in their front yard? But today, that's not why I'm here. I am here because the budget is being read today, and we are all anticipating what's going to be said in it. In there is 275 men and women who are supposed to pass laws and make things work. You would have thought they would have passed one to put a disabled access here. But I'm going in there and I will find me someone from the MPP side, find me somebody from the NDC side, and I'm going to put the question to them. What do you think about the budget? What do you think they'll tell me? The guy in opposition is going to tell me this is a rubbish budget. The guy in the president's side is going to tell me this is the best budget. But let's see if they surprise me. But as a Ghanaian, when you pick the budget, what do you see? What do you feel? We are yet to know. We'll go in there, find somebody to talk to, and then you can make your own judgment. My name is Nana Ansakwa, and this is PM Express in the Parliament House. Welcome to PM Express, as I said in the intro, from the foyer of the Parliament House. Now, I'm going to introduce my guest straight away. From my extreme left is Kaisil Ato Forsen, who's Deputy Minister for Finance. And my immediate left is Dr. Usu Efriye Akoto, member of the Select Committee for Food and Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs. Why am I here? Isn't it obvious? Here to discuss the 2014 budget. The theme of the budget says rising to the challenge and realigning the budget to meet key national priorities. I think the theme is right. Yesterday I was wondering what the theme was going to be, and I was a bit mischievous and I said, hang on to this for a meanwhile as the theme. But no, this theme I think is right for the... But my first question, and I'll start with Kaisil. Oh, Ato is better, yeah? Yeah, Ato is better. Ato, what in the budget would you have done differently? In other ways, what in the budget do you think, as for this section, if I had my own way, I would have tweaked this a little bit?
I have to say that this is the budget that addresses the challenges that we face as a country.
I agree. I'm just saying...
It's just right on. I don't think I would have done anything different because I'm a key stakeholder in preparing the budget, and I think whatever we want to do is what we have here.
Wouldn't you have bought more exercise books more than school uniforms, since school uniforms is not compulsory? Wouldn't you have used the school uniform monies to buy more exercise books? Because after all, you just need to impact the child and not dress the child.
No, you see, it's generally the approach you would like to take as an individual or as a government and the principles that you stand for. I will have to say that this budget in itself proposes a bold new thinking, very transformational in areas, mainly on structural transformation, mainly on infrastructural transformation, social transformation, and a transformation in the SME sector. So it's a big of a balance. Obviously, that is how I would think that what we've done here stands exactly what, if I have my own way, though I'm a deputy, if I'm the number one, I would have done that. And it's just spot on.
So Ato says everything is fine with the budget. He's not going to tweak it. So I'm going to ask my senior brother, Doc, what is good? There's one thing that you think, as for this section in this budget, I think they were spot on.
I must say that I'm disappointed with this budget.
I know, but we're going to get to
your Let me paint a global picture and I'll come to the specifics.
Very good.
Very disappointed with this budget. You know the budget is talking about transformation. Transformation means a structural change. And what structure are we looking at? We are looking at the structure of the economy of Ghana, okay, where we've had a traditional structure of agriculture being the leader, and then followed by services, manufacturing, and so on. And then the last few years, we've seen a change. Service sector has overtaken the other sectors as a major drive of the economy, and agriculture is now the third most important, and so on. But the danger is that we are having a change, the structure of the economy within what we've had for the last 150 years or whatever, Gold Coast Ghana, in that we have an addition, a newborn baby, the petroleum sector coming in, and gas, okay? The gas, we have not been able to do much with it because of all the delays and inefficiencies in implementing this gas project. Now, we are talking about an addition of over $1 billion into Ghana's economy, which didn't exist only a few years ago, okay? From 2007 when oil was discovered, 2009 when the first drop came, and all that. So you would expect that this additional income, if you're talking transformation, will be used to support the areas of the economy where most of our citizenry survive. That is agriculture mainly and fisheries. Okay? Now, what do we see? If you look at the Oil Revenue Act, actually makes provision for that. That we have the annual budget fund, which is supposed to have 4 priority areas, of which agriculture is one of them. Okay, and if you look at the distribution of the coming year, what the government intends to do with the money, agriculture is only given 15%. And there, nearly 3 million of our citizens, that's where they are. So purely in terms of equity, it is wrong.
But they only bringing 3% into GDP. So maybe it's not economic sense to put too much money.
Which one? Which one is 3%? No, please don't say it's more than a third, 35%, not 3%.
35.
No, please. I mean, no, it's not something to be split at all. No,
see.
It is still the major drive of this economy.
I see.
You are talking about oil, which is how many 60 kilometers, 90 kilometers out in the sea. Who lives there? Agriculture, we are living with it in our villages, in our towns. And we have 5 million people, 3.5 million people who are engaged in agriculture, by far the biggest. So in terms of the economy, and still, I mean, in terms of exports, agriculture still plays a major role. Cocoa still brings in 2-3 billion. So it's not something to be split at all, please. Let's get it right, you know. In terms of social mobility and so on, we have this sector which is now coming into agriculture, which is coming into the economy.
Yes. I will by all means get to the
yes. So I'm saying, so let me just, you ask specific questions, yes. And I'm trying to give an explanation. That is my disappointment. Okay. I don't see a very conscious effort being made to bring these additional resources into the mainland economic sectors of agriculture and manufacturing, okay? Into agriculture and manufacturing, which is something which is sustainable. We've been doing agriculture for the last 2,000, 5,000 years, and it will be with us for the next so on. You neglect it like Nigeria did, and we have what we call the Dutch disease, where everybody is scrambling for the oil money, they forget about everything, and then only maybe 2% of the population are super rich, and the rest are just rubbish, you know. And we don't want that to happen in Ghana. We want everybody to take part in this new prosperity. Okay, so this is where I'm saying that this budget is neither transformational or progressive.
Okay,
because it's business as usual. It's business as usual, and for me specifically, the disappointment to do with agriculture is very clear. I was expecting, I have an urgent question in Parliament yet to be addressed by the Honourable Deputy Minister here about why is it that we cannot afford to give cocoa farmers a little bit more increase in price when there has been a 20% depreciation of our currency, and although he claims that world prices have collapsed, they haven't. I mean, if you look at a relevant period.
No, but you still haven't answered my question, because my disappointment was, because I asked everybody the opposite question, then I'll move to.
Right.
So what it's a big document.
Yes.
Is there any sector, as an opposition in Parliament, that I think, as for this, I would have done the same?
I haven't read any document. We just come out of an address of the minister.
The president is taking a 10% pay cut. I mean,
but these are window dressing, please. 10%. What is 10%? So, if you look at the leakages in this economy, the corruption and so on, the GDS and all those things.
So you don't find anything good. You don't find anything good.
So in that respect, I'm saying that the president taking 10%, even if he gave his money away, it's nothing. It's a policy. They don't let's personalize this thing. It's the policies and the pursuance of transparency and good governance that we need in this country. Not a president taking a 10% cut. What is a 10% cut?
Anyway, I'll let you respond to that, because he completely disagrees with how much is going into agri, thinking that maybe more than 15% should have gone.
An industry. Yeah.
You see, let me start by saying that I perfectly disagree with almost everything he said. In the sense that he said, one, it's business as usual, and two, agri sector he doesn't see any bold initiative from the agri sector. Let me say this is not a business as usual budget, in the sense that Ghana is confronted with a major challenge, and the challenge is now we are a middle income country. Though we are a lower middle income country, we are now in a transition from a lower middle income country to a full-fledged middle income country. That requires some action. That actually in itself brings in a number of challenges. Now, access to concessional financing and access to grant is more or less dried out. We don't seem to have the space to confront the infrastructure challenges that we face in terms of our DSA. However, we came out with a proposal, a bold new way of doing things, thinking outside the box. You will agree with me that GET Fund, that was introduced by the same NDC government, transformed the education center, or it has actually transformed the education sector. We are proposing to bring a new way of doing things by proposing to bring in Ghana Infrastructure Fund. And what this Ghana Infrastructure Fund will seek to do is to cross our infrastructure challenges that we face in our country. You will agree with me that we need about $1.5 billion annually in the next 10 years to deal with our infrastructure challenges in order for us to migrate fully into a full-fledged middle-income country as part of some of those things that we have to do. However, since we do not have the space, we are proposing to set up a quasi-fiscal institution that will, in fact, stand for its own rating other than the country's rating, go to the domestic market or the foreign market to borrow and undertake major infrastructure. And what we are saying is that it will drive its financing, its source of financing from the VAT and ABFA. Okay, so we are saying that we are going to give 250 million of the ABFA money to support that, and again allocate 2.5% of the VAT that we just passed, which is 745 million. So together from day one, or for one particular fiscal year, you have 1 billion to start all the way to transform our infrastructure. This is what we want to do. We did not stop there. We moved away and said that, look, outside the infrastructure fund, we want to set up an additional fund called the SME fund. That is going to drive our small companies, small and medium-sized companies, to get them to a level that they can stand on their feet and go.
I thought 50 million was a bit too small, though.
It's a start. We don't necessarily need to be ambitious here, but what we are saying, we are going to put 50 million. But the Ministry of Finance, we have an existing agreement with the CDB to bring additional 1 billion. So we don't want to be overly ambitious, but we know if that money comes in, then we are talking of 150 million. This 50 million will draw its source of financing from EDIF. And if CDB comes to stream, we are talking of 1.5 billion, 150 million US dollars. which to me is good for a start.
And they're adding too much to the CDB law because once upon a time it was the Western Road, the gas and this, and then later on the motorway is in addition, and now SME is in addition.
Explain to you that if you look at subsidiary agreement number 4 that Parliament passed, there's something we call the capacity building for SME, and that's 100 million. It's not an addition. This has been passed by Parliament. It's there already. We are still the subsidiary agreement is going to be signed very soon. So this is going to happen. This is going to happen, and it's not an addition, it's there. I've been on it, I've been to China a number of times on this issue, so I'm comfortable, I know it's going to happen. And when that happens, we are talking of 150 million to boost the SME sector. We didn't also stop there. We talked about the fact that if a country grows, you have, again, another layer of citizens that is in the lower limit. You have to bring them up. And we proposed a bold initiative. We are saying that currently LEAP has proved to be very successful. We are going to increase LEAP from 100,000 beneficiaries to 150,000 beneficiaries. We are going to give 38 million to LEAP. We didn't stop there. We are also saying that we are going to give 5 million to take care of the orphans. Okay, our orphans in the government orphanages. So we're doing a number of things, and I will end by saying that when my colleague said that he does not see any bold initiative from Agric, I will urge him. Obviously, he has not seen a document. I'm sure that by the time the debate starts, he will be able to see that indeed we've provided enough for agriculture. You see, Agric sector, I agree that from 2011, it's now recovering from 0.8% of GDP to 1.3%, and now from to 3.8% of GDP, the way it contributes. It's now picking up. Again, the cocoa sector. The reason why government decided to maintain the cocoa price, you see, is that the world market cocoa prices is not doing the best. It's not doing the best. Countries cannot afford to increase the cocoa price. As a listening government, as a government that cares about our hard-working farmers, we decided as a government to cede 62% of our excise duty to the cocoa farmers. In terms of taxation, we said we are not taking a cut. We are ceding 62% of our excise duty so that the cocoa farmers can get a buffer to reward them for their hard work. Cocoa sector has been supporting this economy over the years. And this is the time that we have to stand by cocoa farmers, so we could not still increase it. But if you compare ourselves to Ivory Coast, our price, our price is still better than that of Ivory Coast. It's still better than that of Ivory Coast. So I strongly think that government is doing a lot for the cocoa sector, and government is doing a lot for the agri sector. Even before I end on that, and we're also saying that coming year 2014, you will see it in the budget under the lines, the coastal fishing harbors is going to start. It's going to start, and we are hopeful that it's going to start. And when that starts, obviously, you will see a change in the fishing sector, and that will go to boost the total GDP contribution of the fishery sector, and that is what I hope.
I don't share the optimism at all, because I've been in this parliament. This is the 5th budget I've seen, and there are certain items that this government repeatedly every year have brought in and have not been realized. A typical example is the Accra Plains irrigation project. I don't know whether he intentionally left it out in his presentation, but if it's still there, then it's very traditional. For 5 years, it's been on. Every year it's 5,000, 10,000, sometimes they say 11,000, and not a drop, not 1 hectare or 1 acre has been irrigated in Accra Plains. So all these things about funds and so on. I can cite to many, many examples where this government and its predecessor, which took over itself last year, the beginning of this year, has been doing. I mean, a whole lot. I mean, he's talking about funding. He's talking about this new fund that has been created. I think we need to actually wait and see what happens to these funds, because there have been other funds before. We're talking about the buffer stock, for instance, where this government created a limited liability company that they are going to mop up all the grains, that excess grains from farmers and so on. And how much are they able to do? They are given just enough resources to do maybe 10,000 metric tons, when the market is about 300,000 metric tons. So this is what I call window dressing. So this whole optimism about we have created this fund so for small scale for this and that is going to happen. I would rather wait and see. But from the record of this government, the previous budgets are littered with all kinds of arrangements that they come up and say we are going to do, and then nothing happens.
And fresh blood.
Which fresh blood? It's the same regime. It's the same regime. Whether old or fresh blood, it's the same regime.
From the
that's a point that I'm making.
Is beginning to understand and buy into that. This proposes a bold new way of doing things.
It's rhetoric.
Hope for? What you should hope for? And which one we've all been? We don't normally do partisan politics when you confront issues like this for a country. What we say is that it's a proposal. Let us all team up as a country and make sure we can get it done, because they are proposals. Okay. And if we can get it done, I can tell you that this is the budget for the future. This is the budget that can change and transform this economy. And that is what I'm hopeful.
So the other thing is, most MPs, and I don't know if Doctor has got his, but the common fund is behind. So most of these funds, which are behind the scenes. So this year, are you going to pay and keep up, or are you going to write to them to say, look, we're going to be 2 quarters behind? How are you going to cover that?
Let me say this. One, we've paid the common fund the second quarter. So tactically,
so you have 2
the third quarter is not due. Okay, always you have 1 quarter. The last quarter will be paid in December. So tactically, we don't, in fact, practically, we don't have a rest on the common fund. And as I speak, we're making an arrangement to pay the third quarter, which will be due in first week in December. We will pay that even before we rise. And this is what we know we're going to do. I agree that we have...
Hold on. Doctor, I mean, I've heard people complain about this fund not coming back.
I'm very surprised.
Doc, so are you saying you've not received the second quarter?
No.
I have received mine.
When?
I have received mine.
No, the timing. It's not
this was done before we came to Parliament for this session.
You put your
so
finger
about 4 years ago, 4 weeks ago, it's been done.
It was a point that I was going to make, that you are creating more funds when your existing funds have not been cleared.
Let me take a quick break and then we come back. Folks, when we come back, we need to clear this fund, get it right, because you hear all the time with DCs and MPs saying, look, I'm behind, I haven't gotten my funds, but actually saying that you've gotten your funds. So, listeners, if you've gone to your DC and he says he hasn't got the funds, he has got the funds because the minister says he's got it. We are coming straight back. Welcome back, and the debate still continues as to whether the funds has been paid or not been paid. But I need to clarify this. Atu, you've gotten your funds. Doc, have you gotten yours?
Oh yes, I got a notice only lately.
So it was delayed.
Yes, but you see, we have 2 funds. Okay, we have the Get Fund and all those.
Yeah.
Well, what about those? Ask him.
Let me come in.
Apart from the common fund,
you see,
the other National Health Insurance, and all those funds, where are they?
We just released 150 million, and that will bring us up to May. Okay, that we've paid them up to May.
Up to May.
Yes,
gone.
May gone.
We are in November.
Okay. We still have some months to go. We've projected, based on the revenue that we are going to accrue, we are still going to pay up to.
If the money was supposed to be paid by law, it means you use the money to pay something which was not by law.
Yes, I think you have introduced something very interesting, and this is why the theme of the budget says realigning the budget towards to meet priorities. You see, it's the rigidities that we have in this budget as we operate. We have what the law says and what practically happens. We live in a country that we have earmark funds and non-earmark funds. Non-earmark funds, okay, if you take the earmarks like the Disassembly Common Fund, all those things gone, we are left with 95% non-earmark funds. Non-earmark funds is about 30% of total funds. It's about 70% of total. You see, we have earmark fund and non-earmark funds.
Things that
we have earmarked. We earmark the Disassembly Common Fund, National Health Insurance, and.
I just want to find out what would be a non-earmark like.
Non-earmark is after you've taken the earmark out, the rest come to the kitty.
Okay.
And total expenditure.
Okay.
And that includes compensation. debt service is not earmarked. Okay.
No, but this year debt services were earmarked.
No, debt service is not earmarked.
Not debt services. I mean, what should we call it? The
Debt fund.
No. The fund. The thing Wyoming got. What was it called?
The judgment debt.
Judgment debt.
It's not earmarked. If we say earmarked fund, it's what the statutes, the laws of this country says pay.
Oh, okay, I get you. The law says.
Okay.
The law says.
Yes.
They have broken.
That's what the law says. The practice, what happens? What happens is when you receive total revenue, you have to pay for their service. Okay? So you pay them, and obviously after you pay their service, you have to pay wages, whether you have it or not. Okay? By the time you pay wages and debt service, before you realize, you don't even have money to pay for the earmark fund. And that is the rigidity that we have in this budget. And that is why we are saying we have to realign the budget, because as we speak, the budget is negatively skewed towards compensation. And that is why you've heard the finance minister so many times saying that the way the single spine pay policy is going is not sustainable. It is 96% of non-earmark fund and 74.4% of total revenue. And it can't continue like that. And that is why we are saying that let us rise up to the challenge. Let us realign this budget to face the importance that we need to handle in this country, the priorities.
Can it be possible without the cooperation of the lower house or without the minority?
It can be done.
Without them?
It can be done. Obviously, you will need bipartisan approach to deal with it. Because I think, and the president has shown leadership today. The president has shown leadership today in the sense that we need to confront the compensation as it is. Remember, when we say compensation, it's not only wages and salaries. Gratuity is part of it, social security is part of it, and pensions is part of it. We have a number of people that retire under Cap 30 and they retire on their wages and salaries. Okay? All of this are becoming burden on the national kitty. And the president is saying he's going to cut himself, his vice, and appointees by 10% for the purposes of showing the way. And when we show the way, currently we are hopeful that even if we manage to maintain the wage as it is without necessarily increasing, okay, obviously we are starting negotiation with labor. If we can do that, wages will move from 74.4% of total revenue to about 50-something percent. And the next year, that will mean that within 2 years, we'll come back to the acceptable limit. And this is what we are always saying.
Meaning
that this is the way to go.
The economy is going to grow, but
the economy is going to grow. Yes, because if you see, let me say this. If you compare, if we had not implemented single spine, and to take account of the incremental increases that we give on wages, where wages would have been and where wages is, there's a huge gap, huge difference. So I'm comfortable and I'm convinced that public sector workers are far better off with a single spine. However, single spine has become more or less, to me, a monster, challenging our national budget and the way we prioritize our expenditure. And we need to get back to where we used to be. And Ghana used to be within 30-35%. Even if we don't aim to get back to 30-35% and get back to 40%, I think it's acceptable. And at that time, you have freed about 60% of the expenditure for the purposes of handling infrastructure.
Yeah, you see, you are now taking us back as to the source of the fiscal dislocation that this government faces and bringing all the hardships on us, the citizens. We know that 2012, when they came to this house 2 years ago for budget approval, the projected deficit of the GDP was only 4.2%. What happened? At the end of it, we were landed with 8.7% or so, twice that. And most of that increase, about 4-point-something billion, wasn't from public sector wages. It's public sector wages, and he knows it. And this is why when this government makes excuses for all those factors, I get totally amused. because we know that they at the time. That's
you have a point, but there's 2 points to
it. Yeah. No. But you see, no, they are related. How did we land ourselves in this situation? Well, we are paying nearly 3/4 of our income to wages. How did it come about? At the time they started with the police service. You remember a constable from 200 to 500 and something Ghana cedis a month. They were saying, you wait, you haven't seen nothing yet. Things are going to happen. And you mismanage this whole increases on the, and then now you come back and say, oh, but here it is. As if someone else is to blame. It's the management of the economy. It's the management of the program that we are talking about, where a deficit of 4.2% ends up at 8.7%. I mean, can you imagine? And most of that deficit happened in 6 months to buy the votes. We know it. Nobody can go around this. We know that fact. That 2012, most of that deficit of, 4 point something billion happened within 6 months, June to December.
And we show the line items that the deficit was applied to.
Yeah, but the deficit was applied only out of the 4 point something, only 1.6 or something, 1.3 was for wages. And the rest, we know where it went.
The presidency, CIT?
Where they came for the budget that they're going to spend 82 million, ended up with nearly 600 million in the presidency. You know, there were all these mismanagements going on, and then the judgment debts and all these other guinea fowls and all those things. They all add up to something. They all add up to something. So he shouldn't just come in with a straight face here and sit here and say, oh, we are trying to do this and we have problems and so on. The problems originated from them. And now Ghanaians are in such a fix. They can't pay their bills. They can't pay their school fees. I'm a member of parliament. If you know the number of parents who come to troop to my office in Kwadaso looking for help, calling me at midnight, that they need a little top-up in order to pay their children's fees, you'll be amazed. You know, so it is pure mismanagement and lack of transparency and the corruption, the leakages in the system for which we are paying. And we have to be called a spade by a person in the street who takes a trotro from Medina to come as a messenger to the ministries to work. When he used to pay 40 pesos, he's having to pay 60 pesos, and his budget is totally out of control. His landlord is throwing him out because he can't pay the increased rent and all that. These are the realities on the ground.
You were introducing two things. The same person you are talking about budget deficit and the same person you are talking about subsidy that has been removed and it's not good.
But basically what I'm saying is that there is a link between the two. They are not parallel to each other. There's a link.
But it's same person.
And you see, if you are talking about intellectual honesty, you have to admit that there's a relationship. It didn't come about out of the blue.
No.
How come you have a budget which has been approved, appropriation bill passed by law, you have to spend so much, and then you go and spend twice as much? I mean, how? I mean, was everybody sleeping when this happened? So please, let's recognize the source and so on, so that at least the workers, when they listen to the Deputy Minister of Finance, at least they will have some heart, you know, instead of the painful thing of they having to pay for it and suffer to 19 or 18 point something percent VAT, and then we sit here as the managers of the economy and we wash our hands and say we don't have anything to do with it. For goodness sake, we do have a lot to do with it. The cocoa farmer who is now receiving it, he's talking about cocoa farmers. Ivory Coast has been able to increase the price to farmers by 15%.
But they are still below. They are still below our price. But that is the fundamentals. That is what you should understand.
That's not relevant.
So the fundamentals is we are still.
They were much worse.
That's the fundamentals, and we can get it right.
No. The thing is that you don't know how much money the public sector in Ivory Coast pays on the cocoa farms, like our mass spraying and the high tech where you supply free fertilizer to farmers, okay, which has now been drastically cut. I have the figures because I'm a cocoa farmer myself. I have large cocoa farms in Brown and Ashanti region. You come, I'll take you there. You know, so I know exactly what is happening. Where 2.2 million bags were supplied under high tech to cocoa farmers have been cut to 500,000. Is he aware of that? Where mass spraying 6 times a year to control black pod and all that has been cut to twice a year. I mean, these are very, very serious things, which are, of course, reducing the use of cocoa farmers.
No, but are you saying that the international market for cocoa is
But
reduced?
it's not true. It's not true. Look, as I speak to you.
Why it's not true?
Because, no, I have the figures. Look, I've worked in the International Coffee
So is
Organization.
it up or then is it down?
No, listen, please, let's be serious. I'm not talking as a politician. I've worked with the International Coffee Organization for 17 years in London. I know the market like the back of my hand because I sell coffee.
Can you confirm? Can you confirm?
I have written an article.
A year today, the same as the price a year today.
A year
ago.
Look, now the price of cocoa in London is 2,700.
And a year ago?
A year ago, 2,400. The year before, 2,300 and something.
It's amazing.
There's a difference.
It's gone up by 300.
It's amazing.
No, but it's not even the relevant. You see,
it's amazing.
I've written an article in the graphic. If you read that article, you understand.
Atu is not aware of it.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where he's getting his figures.
It's amazing that I'm hearing here for the first time, and it's up to all of us to verify.
No,
and you come and tell me that indeed cocoa prices is coming down. No, but cocoa prices a year ago is better off than today. And everybody knows that, apart from yourself.
No, but that's not true. That is not true. That's the point. That's my main problem with your thing.
Let me move the you know? Atu,
it's not true that cocoa prices are falling.
Ghanaian,
for goodness sake, you can go and tell that to somebody, but not me. Because I'm on the market every day. In the morning, I get up, I look at the price.
We'll go and check, and I'm sure my viewers will also Google
and
it
look,
and find out.
I have an article in the Daily Graphic.
And this year, I'm sure we'll find it.
And I have an article in the Daily Graphic last Friday week, where I'm doing the analysis and showing exactly what is happening to cocoa prices on the international market. It is not true that cocoa prices have collapsed.
We will check, and I'm sure my viewers will also check.
We'll get there.
What I find is that as a Ghanaian, if I pick this, let's say I have 2 million cedis in my account, and I pick this account, this budget, what do I see? Do I go a Greek? Do I go... What direction? I can't tell what direction the country is going if I just glance through. I see... let's help SMEs a bit. Let me help Agric a bit. Let me push energy to 5,000. And if we do that piecemeal, we might end up not going any clear direction. Should you guys not have said, you know what, we are going energy. Forget about the rest. We just touch on the bet, but we are going energy, or we are going in tourism. But, you know, we just see, let us help everybody a little bit so that we are all goody-goody.
Thank you very much. What I can say is that the Ghana Infra Fund, when it comes back to the House to get the legislation, we are going to propose some of this, how sectors that we are going to spend it on. One of the key sectors that we are going to focus on is the energy sector. We're going to use the energy sector to propel growth and to create employment, because energy and industry is very much linked. And until you get it right, by ensuring that the constraints in the energy sector is more or less removed, you can't get growth in the service sector, and that is a fact. You realize that the first half of the year, the service sector actually struggled because of the underperformance of the energy sector. And that is a fact.
Come in here, because for 2016 we are hoping to get to 5,000 kilowatts, and my little research tells me that that's not where you start industrialization from. It's 2 light bulbs per household. And I hear South Africa has got 300 light bulbs per household. The likes of the USA have got 2,500 bulbs per light household. Malaysia and co have 800 bulbs per household. That is when you start industrializing. But to get to 5,000, it just means that every house in Ghana has got 2 bulbs. And we can't...
So are you saying it's too small?
We're too small, tiny.
No, but you already...
It's not ambitious.
Already I've also heard a number of people saying it's too ambitious.
Oh, no, it's not.
But the fact is you have to start from somewhere. And that is the fact. And you cannot be over-ambitious. You have to say something that you can actually do based on the resource that is available. If I'm an ordinary Ghanaian picking this budget or listening to the finance minister on what I paid today, I'll make 2 decisions. I will maybe think of a possible taking advantage of the Ghana Infra Fund by partnering Ghana Infra Fund to partner government to restore some of the infrastructure challenges that we face. The budget also proposes a number of things that relate to SME, macro, small, medium enterprises. One, we are proposing an austerity by giving some setup capital and to assist companies around manufacturing like pharmaceuticals, to give them up to 5 million Ghana cedis for them to take off. What I would do is that I would prepare my business plan and be ready. Okay? And again, outside that, we are also saying that we are going to set up an SME trust fund administered by Board of Trustees.
I'm not being arrogant. I don't have 5 million, but as a nation, is it not too? Aren't we thinking too small?
No, I think this fits back into what I said earlier, that you got to start from somewhere.
100 million, 200 million.
So where are you going to get the money from if you are in charge? If for instance, you have a budget that is very rigid. You see serious rigidity, almost 70% of total revenue going to compensation.
Why are we locking ourselves down with the Jubilee Field money?
The first thing to do, the first thing to do is to realign the budget and to stand up to the challenge. And that is what we are saying. And that is why I keep on saying that this is the budget for the future. This is laying the foundation for proper takeoff as a country, for us to be able to migrate fully into a full-fledged middle-income country. And this is the future. This is a budget that will transform this country, and we should take it. We should not take it as a budget for today, but we should take it as a budget that has the potential of transforming our infrastructure, our service sector, and most importantly, to bring the SME on board.
But isn't there a contradiction in what he said? He's talking about priorities and he's talking about spending money on energy. Okay? Who in this world would say that energy is the most job-creating activity in this world? It's always manufacturing and agriculture. If you really
you need energy to
no. In our circumstance of a nascent oil and gas industry, you have to set the priorities right. Where you are talking about a situation where people are out of jobs, graduates are not getting jobs. Sometimes 3, 4, 5 years they have. I met somebody that I interviewed for my company, and he hadn't worked for 5 years. And I said, so why should I employ you? 5 years as a graduate. So we are just putting them on the heap of unemployment. So there are certain critical social needs that we need to tackle.
Okay,
hang on, wait a minute. And if we have to wait until we get all the energy we want in this world before we can create the genuine jobs, what I call the real jobs in agriculture and in industry, we'll all be dead.
Well, but with that energy, you can have agriculture, but not agribusiness.
No.
Let me clarify my position. It's for us to understand that power, if it's not available, is constrained to growth. It is for us to understand that power and industry is very much related. Without power, industries cannot function for jobs to be created. And you need to have power that is stable and that is cheap for us to be able to become an industrious country. And if you do not get the two together, you are getting it wrong.
I agree with you.
And so it's important for you to start by fixing the constraints to growth in power before you can migrate.
Let me move on to this one before my producer tells me I've run out of time. Why aren't we putting our hopes on tourism and we're still looking at mining? It breaks my heart when I see white people in our forest destroying our land and our water, taking the gold away. When we could, and I hear, in the budget, tourism is now number 4 in the foreign exchange. Why aren't we putting our hopes in there? What's the fear?
I think it isn't a fear. You have to prioritize as a country.
Prioritize tourism.
I'm not saying that it's not of a priority. But I can tell you, if lights are not on, and then you put on hotels, and the prices of hotels goes very up, tourists will not come in because it's expensive. No, I'm coming there. I'm coming there.
Yes.
I can also tell you that if you want to attract tourists to your country, there are certain fundamentals that should be in place. Okay? Because it depends on the type of tourist you want to attract. Certain fundamentals must be in place. What we are seeking to do today, without me telling you that tourism is not a priority, but tourism is a huge priority because, in fact, tourism is the way a number of countries are surviving on. We will get there as a country. we are gradually getting there. Let's fix our current issues with infrastructure. Let's fix our education. Let's fix our social sector and get back to where we're supposed to do. And from that level, we have the platform to attract tourists in.
Doctor, what should we revolutionize? Education, tourism, agri. What should we revolutionize?
No, there are two different sectors.
I know there are different sectors.
No, we are talking about.
We have limited funds.
We have education and we have health. These are social sectors. We have industry and we have agriculture. These are the real sectors of the economy. Okay, and that is the way it should go. That the constraints that we are talking about of that energy is giving us in industry and so on, it pales into insignificance if you look at the kind of constraints that are facing industry and agriculture, which are the real job creating. Look, we were here when poultry farmers came to Parliament to say that if they were fully going, they would create 450,000 jobs. 450,000 jobs in just one unit of a whole sector. So it is something that you have to realize that we are not just talking theory. How much are you providing for them? How much have you provided? This kind of tokenism is what I really cannot understand. Because if you are doing it, you go deep and make sure that the thing is there. I've just cited you an example of the buffer stock. Buffer stock, they don't have the resources to buy even 5,000 metric tons of grain. And yet there's a grain market, maize market of about 450,000 metric tons domestic. So if you want to intervene, you give them the resources to maybe buy 50 or 100,000. So this is the tokenism I'm talking about. Oh, we set up the institution, we set up the fund, and then that's everything is okay. But everything is not okay. Everything is not okay. We need to make sure that the resources we prioritize, as your question implied, we prioritize areas that we want to stay and make good so that it can benefit everybody. But everybody means the graduates, the farmers, the citizenry generally of this country. You're not going to tell me that you're going to put all your money in energy and create 5,000 before you create the jobs. So that's the point.
Before we run about and I'm asking you, what are you going to do or an area that we all buy into, like Operation Feed Yourself or Operation Energy, Operation Tourism, something that we all buy into and follow you, and also make sure that the minority follows you and then it becomes a success in the interest of Ghana?
I will do two things. The first one is, I know, the Ghana Infra Fund is transformational. It will change this country. The sources of financing that we propose today will give us 1 billion dead Ghana cedis. That is approximately half of what we need to fix our infrastructure.
A year.
A year. I'm saying yearly.
Per year.
I use yearly.
Okay.
We need approximately 2 billion Ghana cedis.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. To take care of our infrastructure.
And that will look after ECG wires, and potholes,
general infrastructure,
clinics, and everything.
Big major infrastructure, transformation infrastructure, dams and stuff like the power plant. We are proposing something today that will give us 1 billion. Source of financing one, VAT, gives you 745 million. We are going to make sure we instill efficiency in that, and maybe we can get 1 billion.
Sorry. How is everything going to work out since we don't have a database and this national ID card? How is this going to work?
What is going to work out?
Well, you don't even know who. We don't know where the citizens are to collect money from, to get them.
You mean VAT?
No, VAT or tax collection, broaden the tax net. We need this identification system to sanitize. Okay. If we don't get it, how do you get this working?
I'll come back to that. You asked me a question, I want to get back to it. So I think that is flagship, the Ghana Infra Fund, which is transformational and can change this country. The second thing that I think we is bold new thinking, is our debt management strategy. We are now a middle-income country. Before, we used to go for a long-term loan and then go for a short-term facility to pay for the counterpart. We need to apply the golden rule And the golden rule is for you to go for a long-term facility and go to a capital market or somewhere else and get long-term financing to fix it. And this is some of the strategies that we are putting in place. I will conclude by saying that this budget in itself is the budget for the future.
30 seconds. Without data, without knowing where every Ghanaian is, how are we going to implement this?
Well, I would not put too much trust in this newly created fund, because funds already created are short financed. So I would rather concentrate on financing existing funds to make sure that they are working in accordance with the laws of this country, rather than to create a more. And also to, in other words, to create infrastructure, we have to plug all the holes of corruption and with GIDA and all those things. People just taking monies for doing nothing and all that. If we can be able to stop that, we'll generate enough money within this country and not having to go abroad to borrow money to fix our infrastructure.
I ask you one thing. Do you agree with me? Can you believe with me? I mean, can you accept that Get Fund has transformed the education sector, and national health insurance has also changed.
From the foyer of Parliament House, the debate still continues. But as I say, until I come back again to do it all over again, thanks for watching. This is PM Express. My name is Nana Ansakwa.
No, we have to continue.